This is the Pixel 10 Pro XL, and it's actually been out and available to purchase for over 3 months now, and after using it for an entire month myself, I've come to a pretty definitive conclusion. This is not a phone you should buy. Let me explain why. We'll start with its design, and whilst there is a lot to like about the Pixel 10 Pro's design, it's actually currently my least favourite out of Google's entire lineup. So I'm talking about the base Pixel 10 of course, but I'm even including the much cheaper plastic-backed Pixel 9a in this conversation because both of these phones feel way nicer in the hand compared to the 10 Pro and Pro XL. Why, I hear you ask? Well, it's purely down to these glossy side rails. This is now the 5th year running that Google has persisted with glossy side rails on their Pro lineup, and it's doing my head in. In comparison to phones with matte rails, these glossy side rails just make the phone feel not only more slippery, but just plain worse in the hand. And so purely from a design standpoint, this is not a phone you should buy. Then we've got the battery. And here's the thing, whilst the battery did get a slight upgrade over last year's 9 Pro XL, both in battery capacity and charging speeds, but also of course with the inclusion of Qi 2 magnetic charging, even with all that being the case, I've got to say, I actually had a very similar battery experience with this phone compared to what I had with the base Pixel 10. Now, I charge my phone every night regardless of where it sits at the end of the day, so just keep that in mind, but in the entire month that I've been using this phone, there have only been a handful of days with very light use where the phone has been sitting above 30% at the end of the day. Now, it's certainly not awful battery life, and it has actually gotten better with software updates, but is it a reason to buy this phone? Absolutely not. Then we've got the display, and don't get me wrong, the display on this phone is absolutely no slouch, particularly when you look at the peak brightness specs on paper, but here's the thing, it's not like it's able to sustain its peak brightness for very long because the display just dims itself down after a short period of time, but even ignoring that factor, the bump up in brightness hasn't made it noticeably better than really any other phone that I've used this year. I mean, had Google opted to add a more tangible improvement like an anti-reflective coating, then this might have been a different conversation, but alas, at least when it comes to buying this phone, the display is not a reason to get it. Even the haptics, yes, whilst they're really good on this phone, and in previous years where most other phones on the market struggled in this area, so this would have been a nice little tick for the Pixel lineup, these days, pretty much every other flagship phone has haptics that are just as good, or if not, very close to the quality of the haptics in the 10 Pro. Same goes for biometrics. I don't think anyone's claiming that this phone has an industry-leading fingerprint sensor. In fact, almost every other phone that uses an ultrasonic sensor like the one in the Pixel 10 Pro, they're pretty much all way faster and way more reliable. The only thing the 10 Pro has going for it in comparison to other Android phones is its Class 3 level face unlock, but the Pixel 10 and even the Pixel 9a also have that feature, so again, it doesn't really support the Pixel 10 Pro's cores. And then we have performance, and not only is there nothing to write home about in this regard, but unsurprisingly, this is probably the out and out weak spot of the 10 Pro. And in fact, I think a fair assessment is to say that its performance is actually in line with what you'd expect from a modern mid-range phone, and it certainly can't hold a candle to any other flagship phone running Qualcomm's top-tier Snapdragon chips, for example. And I said this in my review of the base Pixel 10, but after years of waiting for Google to sort things out with their Tensor chipset and get it to a level where it competes with proper flagship processors, let's just say I've kind of given up at this point. Google has basically come out and said that they're not interested in raw performance, but I'm also purely interested in the AI side of things and how they can optimize their chips to bolster that aspect, but that just doesn't really align with what I'd expect when paying this sort of price for a phone. And it's not like there have been any major bugs with the software or anything, it's just that in comparison to other flagship phones that I've used this year, there's just a distinct step down in fluidity when navigating around various parts of the UI. So apps sometimes take just that fraction longer to open or load than you might expect. There's occasionally some delays when opening parts of the settings app or even some dropped frames in the animations. And obviously it's really hard to capture this on camera in these controlled, air-conditioned environments. But a really good example is the camera app, which is noticeably jittery almost every time I open it up, where it'll stutter and have laggy animations, and it'll even sometimes drop frames when I'm capturing images and videos. And I was thinking about why things feel less polished than usual, and I actually reckon it's not as much about the 10 Pro being less fluid than past Pixel phones, although that may also be the case, but I actually think it's more likely due to the fact that the competition has gotten so much better in this regard. Like 4 or 5 years ago, fluidity was actually a selling point of not only Pixel phones, but also pretty much any phone running close to an AOSP-based ROM, like Nothing phones, for example. But that was because at the time, most heavy third-party skins really struggled in this area. Whereas now, the script is pretty much flipped, and those much heavier skins like HyperOS, ColorOS, and even One UI, they've been putting in some serious legwork to not only match AOSP in regards to animation and fluidity, but they actually now far eclipse it in that regard. And to be honest, I probably wouldn't be making any mention of this if this phone was priced like a mid-range phone like the Pixel 9a, for example, but that's the thing, it's absolutely not priced like a mid-range phone. By the way, if you want to see some detailed insights on the software on this phone, then I highly recommend that you watch both my review of the Pixel 10 and my video titled Everything Wrong with Android 16, because the software on the 10 Pro is pretty much completely identical to what it was when both of those videos went live. The only notable addition since then is this new theme pack option in the settings app. And when I saw the name of this feature when it leaked online, I was like, is this finally the customization control that we've been asking for? But boy, oh boy, was I disappointed when I saw that it's literally just the most basic of theming engines that you've ever seen. Like at launch, it only supports 3 Wicked-related themes, which, don't get me wrong, I'm a fan of the movies, but do I want my phone to be themed like them? Hell no. But that's not even the biggest issue with the feature, because when we dive into each theme settings, like, what on earth is going on here? What do you mean, use app icons or use clock? There is absolutely no control over the themes whatsoever. We can literally just turn on or off what aspects of the UI the theme is going to apply to. And so needless to say, this is absolutely not what we wanted when we asked Google for more customization options. Actually, Editing Sam here, and there is one other new feature that literally only just got announced, which is that somehow Google have managed to set up some sort of workaround, meaning Quick Share can now share files to iPhones and Mac devices using AirDrop. And get this, it also works the other way around too. It currently only works on the Pixel 10 series right now, and you do need to jump into the settings app, then tap your profile picture up here, then tap all services, then come down and tap on system services, and you just need to tap on this Quick Share extension and then update it. And the only other thing to keep in mind is that you also need to set both your Pixel phone and your Mac and iPhone devices to everyone mode as well. But with all that done, it should work, at least at the time making this video. And I have no clue how Google have managed to do this, or even if it'll stick around for long, because apparently this wasn't done with Apple's involvement. So if that's the case, then there's a pretty good chance that Apple will block whatever workaround they're using. In fact, who knows, it could already be blocked by the time you're watching this video. But if the feature is able to stick around for good, then man, this is huge. Okay, so finally we come to the cameras, and I've left this section to last because every year that I've reviewed the Pro version of the newest Pixel lineup, it's always been such a toss-up between the base and the Pro model, right up until we get to the cameras, at which point, at least for me personally, the Pro model has always taken the lead, thanks to the fact that it was always the only one of the two that had a telephoto lens. Except this year, that's no longer the case. For the first time ever, Google decided to give the base Pixel phone a telephoto lens. And sure, on paper, it's not as good as the one on the 10 Pro, and they also downgraded both the main and ultra-wide lenses on the base Pixel 10 too. But I'm here to tell you, after using that phone for a month, and now this phone for a month, I literally do not notice a difference between the cameras at all. Now, if you're a Pixel peeper and you put them side by side, then there is one difference that you might notice, which is that the telephoto lens on the 10 Pro does offer a slightly shallower depth of field. But even with this being the case, I've actually often found myself being pretty underwhelmed with the output of all the cameras on this phone, let alone just the telephoto lens. And I'm not the only one talking about this. Lots of people online have been commenting about how disappointed they've been by the images and videos captured on the 10 Pro in particular. So where again, past Pixel phones would often be given a bit of a pass in other areas thanks to their strong camera performance, unfortunately, this time around, that just simply ain't the case, particularly when you've got the base Pixel 10 being pretty much just as good. And so all that to say, let me sum up by saying that there's essentially 2 main reasons why I think you shouldn't buy this phone. And the first is actually this phone here, the base Pixel 10 itself. It is honestly so similar to the Pixel 10 Pro when it comes to real world use that there is just no discernible reason why you shouldn't buy it over the 10 Pro. But if you're someone saying something like, well, I know that the difference is small, but I still want the best cameras, well then that's the second reason not to buy this phone. Because if you're gonna spend this amount of money on a phone and you're wanting the best cameras that you can get, then honestly, you should probably look elsewhere. I just really cannot think of any good enough reason to buy this phone. You love the Pixel software experience, Get the Pixel 9a or the base Pixel 10. You want Pixel cameras? Get the Pixel 10. You want Qi 2 magnetic charging? Get the Pixel 10. And that's only if you absolutely love the Pixel software experience. If you're kind of impartial to the software and you don't care for Qi 2 magnetic charging, then might I suggest nearly anything else? And can I be honest with you guys for a sec? I'm honestly wondering whether this should be my last Pixel phone review for an extended period of time. Like, I do not like providing negative coverage on anything, let alone smartphones, but Pixel phones have just been trending further and further away from what I value in a phone that it's hard for my videos covering them not to come across as overly critical. This is actually what happened with OnePlus phones when they started making questionable changes a number of years back, and I took like 4 years off from reviewing their phones as a result. Now sure, if Google come out all guns blazing next year and make a phone that has fantastic industry-leading performance with improvements to software fluidity and customization flexibility, and if they're able to fix the issues related to camera performance whilst also adding matte side rails while they're at it, then obviously I would love to have to eat my own words and review the Pixel Pro phones again, but I honestly just don't see that happening anytime soon. Maybe I could see them slowly chipping away at these issues over a 2 to 3 to probably even 4 year period, but until then, it might be time to hit pause on reviewing them. Anyway, folks, I know that's a pretty spicy take to wrap up my phone reviews for the year, but as a bonus to those of you who stuck around to the end of this video, if you're wondering which phone I'm going to be sticking my SIM card into now that I've finished reviewing phones for a little while, well, probably unsurprisingly to a lot of you, it is indeed the Galaxy S25 Ultra. Aside from that, as always, let me know what you think of the Pixel 10 Pro and Pro XL down in the comments. Do you disagree with me or do you share similar thoughts? But that's it for this video. Thank you all very much for watching, and I will catch you later.